first YouTube video. I've been thinking about doing this for so long, and so I've just bitten the bullet and done it. I'm already on Instagram and TikTok and Threads, everywhere, the social media. You can find me at Sharon Joy Reads, and I love books. I mean, it's my main hobby, to be honest, and it has been for about 50 years. I'm probably older than most of the demographic on here, but I hope that we can be friends. So I am going to start with my lovely friend Jen, who's Peace and Cookies on YouTube. She's also on TikTok and Instagram, and she's lovely. And she did a mid-year freak-out tag. I think it came from Elliot Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, but I'm going to give it a go. Let's see how we go on, all right? So, the first question. What's my favourite read so far this year? I've actually got 3, so I'm going to show you them. My first one is The Suffering by M.J. Mars. This is a debut writer. She's English, and it is absolutely fantastic. It is a story about a seance in Victorian times that happened in this house called Brackenby House, and it goes a bit wrong, and it releases all of these ghosts, 5 of them, and they start ripping apart the residents of the house, and eventually the medium manages to force them back into the walls, and then he disappears. And then what happens is 100 years later, the grandson of the original medium decides, oh, I know what I'll do on Halloween. Let's have a seance, the same one as my relative did. And well, you can guess what happens. But it is absolutely fantastic read for a debut. It's magnificent. I loved it. It's fast-paced, action-packed. The ghosts are brilliant. The characters are likeable. But it is gory, so just bear that in mind. My favourite genre is horror. I'm sure that's not a surprise to anybody who knows me. Also this year, I finally got around to reading Babel, and I actually read this as a buddy read with the lovely Jen, and we loved it. I love R.F. Kuang, and The Poppy War is one of my favourite trilogies of all time. I absolutely love it, and I loved Yellowface, and this was just, it's just brilliant, isn't it? I love her writing. I love the characters. I was equally heartbroken, infuriated, enraged. It speaks about cultural appropriation, colonialism, racism, privilege. It is, and it's just such a fantastic story. The magic system in it is brilliant too. So really, really enjoyed this one. And my third choice is Miracle Sin by Marcus Hawke. I love Marcus, and I've read a couple of I read his Acts of Violence anthology last year. This is just incredible. It's quite chunky, you can see, for horror, but it is so fast-paced, so action-packed that you don't ever really notice. And it's about this lad who survives miraculously, get my teeth in, miraculously survives a massive earthquake in Israel, and strange things start happening around him. He eventually joins up with these soldiers of religion, so religious soldiers who are trying to stop evil. It's, I can't even tell you how good it is. It's just so good. And I didn't read it. I bought this. This is actually a signed copy from Marcus. I believe so. Yeah, because I loved it so much. I had it on Kindle and I wanted an actual copy. It's just absolutely brilliant. If you like religious horror, if you like fast-paced horror, if you like just enough gore, it's not massively horrific like some of the horror I read. But if you enjoy that, you will love this. It is absolutely brilliant. And is my top read so far of 2023. On to the next question. Favourite sequel. My favourite sequel, and actually it's a prequel, so far this year has been Bookshops and Bone Dust, which I was very fortunate to receive an ARC for. I've ordered a copy to come when it's released as well, and I absolutely loved it. If I can figure out how to put overlays on here, I will. But yeah, absolutely loved it. Brilliant. And it's about, if you've read Legends and Lattes, and I'm sure most of you have, which is the lovely, comfortable, cozy hug of a book, this is more of the same, but it's about Viv 20 years before the events of Legends and Lattes, and before she became, you know, the really hardened barbarian that she is at the beginning of Legends and Lattes. And it's about books. It's a bookshop in a little village, and shenanigans ensue. It's a beautiful, beautiful read, and I absolutely loved it. So that's the one, probably. I don't read many series of books. I'm not much for like trilogies or massive series of books. I prefer standalones, really. But because I love horror, which is my favourite genre, and that's nearly all standalone. So I find series is quite hard. But I really enjoyed that book. That was brilliant. Next questions. Favourite reread. That's going to be anything by Terry Pratchett. The whole of the Discworld series, which I have up here behind me. Every book he ever written. And I actually bought them as they came out. That's how old I am. I absolutely love him. And I can pick up any one of those and reread them at any time. They're complete comfort reads. Did I put that? Yeah, I did. I love Gothic horror. So one of my favourite genres is Edwardian and Victorian Gothic horror fiction, and I have loads of that, especially Sheridan Le Fanu is one of my favourites. Of course, most people think of Poe, and I do like Poe. In fact, they were contemporaries, but Poe was obviously more famous because of the way he disappeared and died. It was all a bit weird. Sheridan Le Fanu is so much darker, so much more horrific. So I love that kind of fiction, so I'll read that at any point. And my absolute favourite reread, if I'm going to pick one, The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I've got this in many formats, including one from the 70s that was actually from the 50s, which is falling apart. But this edition my husband bought me for Christmas. It's beautifully illustrated, and it is absolutely my favourite read if I have a choice. So that's that. Next questions. Genre you love and read the most. As I said, my favourite genre is horror. I'll read anything from the most grotesque, gruesome, explicit horror to cozy horror. I'll read all of it. I love all of it. Some more than others. I really enjoy supernatural, religious, cultic horror, but I'll read anything. And recently, earlier this year, maybe, I actually found Tales Point Horror Book Club. I know Shelley's on here, through Amy McCory, who's also on here, and I'm really enjoying reading the Point Horror books from the 90s. I don't really remember them that well because I was an adult in the 90s and having far too much fun to be reading what I would consider to be children's books. But actually, as an adult now, I'm really enjoying them. They're kind of a bit cheesy, but cozy. They're not difficult to read. They're really easy to read, very quick reads. I grew up at a time, I was a kid in the 70s, and you didn't really have those kind of things. There was no Goosebumps or Fear Street or any of that. There really was only like Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew, which I absolutely loved, by the way. But I went straight into Stephen King and Clive Herbert by the time I was 7 or 8. So that tells you everything you need to know about me, by the way. But yeah, that's that one. Most anticipated release at the end of the year. I've got a couple. Excuse me. I've got Every Exquisite Thing by Laura Stephen, which comes out, I believe, in September, October, which is a picture of Dorian Gray retelling. So I'm looking forward to that. I love Laura's writing. I loved The Society of Soulless Girls. So I'm looking forward to that one. We've got the next one, the sequel to 16 Souls, 12 Bones by Rosie Talbot. That's coming out. I think that's in September and October too. Another fantastic ghosts in York read, and a young lad who can see and speak to ghosts. Also, one I'm really looking forward to is I've got very much into YA, in the last year. I always assumed I couldn't read YA because I'm an adult, and I thought, it's not the, appropriate audience, but actually that's ridiculous. And YA is actually really very good. I've really enjoyed it. So there's an anthology coming out in September, I believe, or October again, called A Taste of Darkness, which has been edited by Amy McCora and Maria Kuznar. And there's loads of great YA horror and ghost stories on there. I'm really, really looking forward to that. So that comes out, as I say, in September and October. Next question. My new favourite author. Well, in the last year, and I've only been posting on social media since September last year, when I started TikTok, because I loved BookTok, and then onto Bookstagram, which I also love. It's such a beautiful community, the book community, isn't it? And I found some fantastic, I love indie authors. I love supporting indie authors. I love supporting especially indie horror writing. And I do actually arc read for quite a few indie authors now, which I'm very honoured to do. So apart from Marcus Hook, who you've seen briefly, Nick Roberts, Phil Baker, Gage Greenwood, MJ Mars, Keenan Patrick Burke, horror writers that I really, really love. And I'm sure I've missed loads, but I can't think of off the top of my head. But also an author that I hadn't really read at all this year was Rachel Harrison. I just finished reading Such Sharp Teeth, which is a werewolf story, and absolutely loved the writing. So she's another one I'm going to keep an eye out for. Absolutely love her. So those are my my current faves I can remember. There's probably loads. A book that made me cry. Books don't make me cry. Or make me scared, or make me extremes of anything, really. But they do make me annoyed and enraged and sad. And Babel probably is the one that's made me feel the most sad this year. I just felt just so awful for the main characters in it. And even though it's just fiction, you know that at that period, and sometimes even now, that still happens to people of other races, and it was heartbreaking and annoying in equal measure. A book that made me happy. Another lovely author that I found, and I missed off my favourite authors then, is Alex Fowkes, or Fawkes, and I'm sorry, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, Alex. I believe she's on YouTube as well, and she writes middle grade, and she wrote these two fantastic books called Rules for Vampires and Rules for Vampires by Back, which is about a child vampire. It's just absolutely brilliant, and what's lovely is it is illustrated all the way through. It's just beautiful. And in fact, Alex very kindly sent me some signed book plates and some bits and bobs, which I sent on to my nephew Alfie, who is 11, 12, and he absolutely loves it. He's taken it into school today to do his show and tell about it. He absolutely loves it. And she was very kind to send those bits and pieces, so my nephew can go into school and say, look, I've got a signed book. Got to start them young, the kids, right, on their obsession with books. Most beautiful cover. Now, this is a difficult one, isn't it? Because I find, especially recently, that some of the covers are just absolutely stunning. I mean, really, just stunning. And I can't pick one. YA especially is, some of the books are just beautiful. And we know we should never judge a book by its cover, but of course we all do, don't we? And if it's a pretty cover, we're going to pick it up. I'll see if I can find a few to fling on the screen for you that I've really enjoyed this year. But I just think book covers, book edges have really just incredible these days. Of course, helps if the story's good. I mean, that's the main reason we read, right? Now, what book do you need to read this year? First one I definitely need to read, because I started it and then got distracted because I had a few arcs I needed to do, is Justin Cronin, The Ferryman, which is a beautiful Waterstones signed edition. And I love Justin Cronin. I love the Passage trilogy. Again, that's one of my favourite trilogies ever. It's vampire-based, as I'm sure a lot of you know. And I'm really looking forward to reading this one again. I'll start again. I only got about 100 pages in, and then I got distracted. Also this year, I read Ninth House, which I'd had on my TBR for a very long time. And so I'm looking forward to reading Hellbent, again, a lovely Waterstones edition. I'm looking forward to that. I really enjoyed Ninth House. I was unsure if I liked Dark Academia because the first one I read was The Atlas Six, which I really didn't like. I know a lot of people love it. It just wasn't for me. Didn't like the writing. But I've loved Babel. I loved Ninth House. So, you know, hopefully I do like a bit of Dark Academia. It seems like it'd be right up my alley, really, wouldn't you? You know what I mean? Academia in a university with books and a bit of darkness. I mean, that sounds right up my alley, but perhaps I started with the wrong one. Or perhaps because so many of my mutuals love Atlas Six that I think to myself, perhaps I just read it at the wrong time. I think sometimes with books, like wine, isn't it? Do you know, they mature on our shelves, right? And then when they're ready, we read them. And sometimes I think we prematurely pick one up that's just not ripe. Do you know what I mean? So I think perhaps I should try it again. Then, favourite book community members. Now, because I don't know who is on YouTube, I'm only going to do the ones that are on YouTube. Obviously, my friend Jen, Peaches and Peace and Cookies, who I absolutely love to bits. You should follow her. She's fantastic. I love my friends Amelia and Andy. We have a buddy group, a WhatsApp buddy group, which we do all the time, which is fantastic. I also love Amy McCall. I love her videos. I love Mina and Mina and the Undead. Can't wait for the new one to come out. I love her reading sprints. And she's just such a lovely, lovely woman. And Amy Whitby, we need to get on it. I also love Tales Point Horror. Shelley is on that. Love that. I love Rosie Talbot, Mera Child, who wrote 16 Souls on the new one, 12 Bones. And I'm sure there's loads of people I'm missing. But yeah, there's a lot of creators I really love to watch. Love to watch people talk about their books, their book recommendations. I forgot Paula. I love Paula. Oh, sorry, Paula. Yeah. Lots of brilliant creators who talk about books because we're all a bit obsessed, aren't we? Anyway, I feel I might have witted on enough, so it's my first video done. I hope it wasn't too bad, and I hope I've managed to have my eyes in the right place because it's a bit weird filming this angle, isn't it? But yeah, hope you're all well. Hope you're all doing good. Hope you're all reading fantastic books. Let me know what you're reading if you have any recommendations. And have a beautiful, beautiful day, my friends. And I'll speak to you all soon. Bye.